Going to go back to the massive transfer of the summer. That was Harry Kane, after that landmark move to Bayern Munich from Tottenham in the summer. Now, he's had an incredible start to life in Bundesliga, and Kevin Hatchard has seen him very closely over the past few months. How good has he been?
Absolutely sensational. He's been beyond, I think, even Bayern's expectations. They hoped they were bringing in a goal guarantee, which is what they used to have when Robert Lewandowski was there. But I think he's been beyond even what they hoped for. I think they still see it as a real coup to have brought in the captain of England to the Bundesliga. It's been huge for the league in general. There's been very much a feeling of Kane mania. They've been selling thousands and thousands of shirts. There's a real excitement around German football about it. And in terms of the pure numbers, I mean, if he gets a couple of goals at the weekend against Eintracht Frankfurt, he'll have 20 already in the Bundesliga, quicker than anybody's ever done it, quicker than Haaland, quicker than Lewandowski, quicker than Gerd Müller. It would be absolutely extraordinary.
So I think probably everybody expected him to do well, but do you expect him to do this well, Flex?
Yes, actually. I'll be honest, I did. I think the things I've looked at since Harry Kane has gone is, one, when he left the league, I don't think there was enough sort of reflection to say we are losing a huge player. Like, we often talk about, Mohamed Salah, and we've spoken about Ronaldo when he left, and with Gareth Bale, when a big player leaves the league. And I think Harry Kane, we forget. I know with Spurs, with not winning not winning anything, I understand that. But with him individually, with the numbers that he put up and this sheer amount of goals he managed to score, we've lost a huge player. And to hear you say about Kane mania, and it's almost like the Bundesliga understand they actually have a superstar.
Are you missing a bit of Kane mania? It feels like it's a bit sad that we've not got the Kane mania.
That should have been in Stretford. That should have been at Manchester United. It would have been great. But I do feel that we didn't really spend time sort of understanding what a superstar Harry Kane actually is. And in terms of the numbers, I've always been a massive Harry Kane fan, and I've always said if he moved from Spurs, because some people sort of try to downplay how world-class he actually was, because he hasn't won top honours, because he hasn't won what Lewandowski has, what Benzema has, how good is he? And I've always said, if he goes to a top team like Real Madrid, like Bayern Munich, anywhere else on the continent, he will do that plus more, and he's doing it already.
I think there's been a really good fit, hasn't there, between the manager style, the team that he's joined, and the player as well. But just a question for you, Kevin, has he helped to make kind of players around him better as well? Because we saw a huge part of his game at Tottenham wasn't just the scoring goal element, but how he brought in other players and really linked up the attack. Is that something you've seen at Bayern, or is he more of just the out-and-out main guy?
No, he's done that really well. Because if you look at the very first few games, guys like Leroy Sané were really enjoying the fact that he was around because they had a bit more space to work. He's a really intelligent mover off the ball, so that gives them options as well. And I think they're really enjoying playing on the same team as him because, he is slightly different to Lewandowski. We saw in the very first Bundesliga game he played, he dropped deep to the halfway line. Sané made a run beyond him and he was able to play the ball over the top and he scored. And that's the kind of chance he's been creating all season. I think he's got 5 assists already. So he's racked up a load of assists as well, scoring goals in the Champions League. The interesting thing as well, you talk about Tottenham, if anything, it's even more impressive what he did towards the end there. In a really average team, he got 30 Premier League goals last season. And so now with a dominant team that's used to dominating every game, world-class attack around him, scoring tons of goals.
We've got to start to see the top scorers around the top leagues in Europe at the moment, which we can show. And, I mean, there you go, James, that tells the story.
It's been quite remarkable what he's done, isn't it? 18 goals already this season. One of Europe's, he's Europe's top scorer. And as Kev was saying there, we shouldn't necessarily be surprised. He scored 30 goals in the Premier League last season for a Spurs side who finished 8th outside Europe for the first time in over a decade. And what I think is so crucial and so interesting is the fact he settled in so quickly, considering what happened in the days leading up to him moving. He wasn't sure until he boarded that plane whether or not he'd get that move to Bayern Munich in the end. And with that uncertainty, not having a pre-season with Bayern Munich to hit the ground running has been absolutely brilliant. I think he deserves a huge amount of credit. I think when you think about where he could have maybe gone in the summer, I think Manchester United will be thinking now, maybe Daniel Levy wouldn't let him go to Manchester United anyway, but I think they'll be thinking we've really missed a trick there because think of the impact he could have made this season for United.
How's he settled off the pitch then?
Really well. I think, already he struck up a friendship with Thomas Müller. and he's kind of the boss without being the boss at Bayern. So they're getting on really well. I think they've been golfing together, so they've been spending a lot of time away from the pitch together as well.
Drinking those big...
Drinking
Just
the
say big
Stein.
pint glasses,
Yeah.
but pint's a pint regardless, isn't it? But you know what I mean.
He's had the lederhosen, he's been eating the Weisswurst, he's been doing all of the Bavarian things he's expected to do. And I think he's really embraced not just being a Bayern player, because that comes with a lot of responsibility in terms of the Bayern community, if you like, but he's embraced the fact that he's a superstar. And he gives interviews very freely. He's always talking to the Bundesliga after games. He's really relishing that spotlight being on him, and he talks like a leader. And I think what's interesting is we're used to Thomas Tuchel being quite abrasive with players sometimes, being quite critical with players sometimes, for good or bad. From the get-go, he's been so positive about Kane. And the very first game that he was involved in was the Super Cup. They lost 3-0 at home to Leipzig. Tuchel apologised publicly to Kane afterwards and said, I have to say sorry to Harry. He probably thinks we haven't trained all pre-season because we were so bad. So they're really happy to have him, and he's really happy to be there.
So that transfer did happen in the summer, but João Palhinha going from Fulham out to Germany didn't happen. Could it happen in January?
Bayern is still very keen. It was a deal that Thomas Tuchel wanted to happen. It caused a lot of friction that it didn't happen and that it was left so late, because there was a big debate in German media about whether Bayern's squad was too thin. And Thomas Tuchel had said a few times, yeah, we are thin in a few areas. Uli Hoeneß, who of course is a massive figure in the background at Bayern and has been for decades, said, well, you have to make the most of what you've got. And I think we have a world-class squad. So they have been butting heads a little bit as a result of this. He would absolutely want to sign him in January.
We're hearing a lot about this name, Brian Zaragoza, but he's a Bayern player, but he's not actually there at the moment. Tell us more about him.
So they've done this deal whereby they've got him from Granada, but he goes back on loan for the rest of the season. And this
Was that done in the summer, or is that...
So that's been confirmed this week.
OK.
He'll be on loan at Granada for the rest of this season, and then he'll join Bayern next summer. Really exciting player, really instinctive, can take people on one-on-one, can play wide. He's had some really good performances this season. I think what's interesting about him is at the moment it feels like he's not necessarily what Bayern needs. So that suggests to me that they might be moving out one or two players in the summer.
Okay, all right, one to keep an eye on. We're just before we move on to Manchester United completely, Manchester United play Bayern Munich next. Florian Pettenberg was saying that he expects Harry Kane to be playing in that game and Tuchel will go full strength. Do you expect that?
Yeah, I think he will. Bayern have had one game fewer recently because their game at the weekend against Union Berlin was suspended because of heavy snowfall in Munich. They should be used to snow in Munich, but it was extreme, so they had to postpone that game. So that's not going to be till after the winter break. There's no reason not to play him. And this is the kind of big game that he wants to play.
Music deflects his ear.
Delighted.
That's absolutely fantastic.
You missed
Full
the eye
strength
roll.
team.
You weren't on the
Full strength.
view
You know,
then.
people talking about how many games these players are having to play. The managers are moaning. It's a perfect time for Thomas Tuchel to rest his whole entire squad, and he's
They've
not
got a
going to
little
take
break.
it.
You just heard. They
Well, they need further rest.
He
Get
needs to
further
keep that
rest.
match fitness. He needs
You're
to
top.
keep that form up.
You're top. You got nothing else to play for. But hey.
Smash United and then have a rest. It's fine.
Good for the confidence. Yeah.
I'm bang against these winter breaks, by the way, Kevin. I do not want them in England.